passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, everybody. What is up? Josh Brown here from Indie Franchise Law and host and creator of Franchise Euphoria. Thrilled to be back for another awesome episode. Want to talk about today business basics for franchisee owners. One of the things I hear often in the franchise space is that people who go into franchising and become franchise owners believe that the system that they're being provided and the blueprint that they're being given or that they're being sold is all they need to really find success in franchising. Of course, the smart franchisees know that that is a bunch of hogwash, and really to have the ability to put yourself in a position to really find success in franchising, there's a number of things you have to do. But as I was thinking about it more, you really have to have a basic understanding of how businesses run and how you are going to run your business in terms of outside of the franchise realm. Certainly, you're going to be getting information from the franchisor. You're going to be given an operations manual. You're going to be given a blueprint. But you, as the franchisee owner, still have to have a basic understanding of business. And the fact remains that most people who buy one-off franchises or who become franchisees have really never owned a business before. Many of them have come from corporate America. Maybe they've been downsized. Maybe they've really always wanted to have their own business and decided to get into franchising so that they could get in business for themselves, but not by themselves, as the old adage goes. Well, one of the things I found just in working with and dealing with a lot of situations in franchising is that a lot of times the problems that franchisee owners run into, not necessarily a problem with the franchisor, but a problem with a lack of understanding of how to actually run a business. And so it's important to understand that when you do buy a franchise, you still, as the owner, have a responsibility, a duty, and really need to have a core understanding of the various aspects of a business. So what are those aspects? Well, from my vantage point, I've sort of broken it down into 5 business basic categories that I think each and every franchisee must have knowledge of at a minimum in order to give them a chance of success with the franchise. First one is management. You need to have an understanding of the management structure of your franchise. Of course, this runs the gamut, whether you're in a retail franchise, a home-based franchise, the size of your franchise, how many employees you're going to be hiring, how many independent contractors. All that factors into what is the overall management structure and where do you as the franchise owner fit into that? Are you at the top where you're going to be involved on a daily basis and overseeing that? So you're going to be the owner / manager, or are you in a position where you're going to be hiring a manager to manage your people? Those are very, very different things. You have to have a very clear understanding, not only of what that structure is, but you have to have a comfortable feeling with whatever structure it is that's part of your business. So if you are in a position of owning a franchise where you as the owner are really not going to be there on a day-to-day basis, but you're going to be managing the manager, then you need to have some skills and some know-how into how to do that. You have to have more than just people skills. You have to have an organizational structure to how you operate so that you can make sure that the key metrics that are going to be key indicators on how your franchise is doing, that your manager is attuned to that, and then you are attuned to that as you're overseeing the overall process. Flip side of that is if you in your management structure as the owner are going to be there on a day-to-day basis overseeing everything, you really need to have a understanding of what it's like to do that. Now, the fact of the matter is there's no substitute for experience. So oftentimes you're going to be, if you don't have that experience, you're just going to have to gain it through ownership. But I would encourage you, if that's the case, to really reach out to mentors and to talk to other people who have been in similar situations so that you can have a leg up. That's one thing that I don't think the franchisor is necessarily going to be able to help you with a great deal. Now, they might give you a blueprint for how many employees you need and where they need to plug in. But in terms of how you operate, in terms of your culture that you establish in your business, that's going to be very individualized. And you need to make sure that you have the proper tools to put yourself in the best position to succeed from that perspective. So the management structure is really the first categories, as I would describe it, as sort of a business basic that you as a franchisee owner should have a clear understanding of. Number two is operations. As I've indicated, you will be provided with an operations manual that's going to lay out the nuts and bolts of your business. But it's very different getting an operations manual and then following an operations manual. I've dealt with a number of clients and that have amazing operation manuals, and they have all the know-how contained within, these big packets of information that make up the operations manual. But in practice, they just don't know how to implement it. So it's very different understanding what needs to be done and then having the know-how and the experience and the sophistication to be able to then implement that in your business. Very, very key. In fact, this is probably the most important category that I'm going to highlight today, because if you're going to be successful as a franchise owner, you have to be able to take that blueprint that you're being provided and effectively implement it into your location or into your business. And doing so can be easier said than done. So one of the recommendations I have in terms of giving yourself the best opportunity to be successful from that perspective is to be sure that you have thoroughly read the operations manual, that you understand it, and that you in your head can visualize taking that plan and walking through and identifying on a day-to-day basis how you're going to implement it and who's going to implement it. Because the fact of the matter is, in most instances, you're going to need support and you're going to have assistance, whether it's managers, employees, or other people who are helping you along the way. Identifying early on who those people are and how they're going to take this operations manual and actually put it in place is going to be very, very, very important. The next category would be billing/accounting. I can't tell you the number of businesses that have run into serious and significant pitfalls because they don't have their billing and accounting practices down. And oftentimes in franchising, you will be provided with a billing software system, that's usually, if you're in retail, is tied into your POS system. But you then have to be able to make sure that you are staying on top of your bills and on top of your accounting, that everything transfers and shows up properly and is properly categorized throughout the course of a year. There are so many business owners that do not do a good job of categorizing their expenses and end up getting busy in their business, operating it. And then at the end of the year, it's just a total disaster in terms of accounting for what they've done. That can have a very big impact on your bottom line. It can also have a very big impact in terms of the IRS coming after you for money that maybe you weren't segmenting appropriately. So I think billing and accounting is one of those things that nobody likes to do. I've never found any business owner who gets excited about billing and accounting, but it's one of those fundamental business basics that you as a franchisee have to take it upon yourself to understand and know and follow through with as the owner of the business. And if you are not the right person to do that, you need to get somebody in place to do that. Let me give you a perfect example. A company I've used in my own business for the last 2+ years is a company called Kahuna Accounting. They're not paying me anything to say this. I just really like their service. They come in and help with the reconciliation on a month-to-month basis and provide you with a dedicated accountant to help you work through how to categorize your expenses and so forth. I have found them to be incredibly helpful for me, and it has made my life much, much easier come the end of the year when I actually deal with the tax implications and aspects of my business. So whether it's Kahuna Accounting or another third party, or if you just have the capability to do it yourself, that's fine. I just think it's important, very, very important, that you make sure to account for that at the outset of your franchise. It's a very, very important category that many people overlook or just don't pay much attention to because they figure they have bigger fish to fry. And it's one of those things that will sneak up on you. And if you don't address it at the outset of your business, it's like that domino effect where as things become more and more complicated, as you start to grow as a business, the billing and the accounting just becomes all that much more important. And if you don't have the foundational structure at the outset, it's very, very difficult and time consuming to then go back after the fact and recreate it. Number 4 would be banking, which would tie in some regard to the billing and the accounting. But I find it very, very important in franchise businesses that the owners have good banking relationships. As I've talked about in previous episodes, one of the biggest killers of franchise businesses is being undercapitalized. And people routinely believe that they need less money than they actually do. And so it's very, very important at the outset of your business that you have good banking relationships with at least 2 or 3 people within the banking business or within the capital community. In other words, the community in which you could get money or get loans. There are going to be all sorts of surprises that come about in your business. There's going to be things that happen that you will have never anticipated. You need to anticipate the unanticipatable things, if that makes sense. That was a mouthful, but you really need to understand that no matter what you do, no matter how prepared you are, no matter what you implement in your business, things are going to happen. Oftentimes when things happen, they cost money and they take you outside of your budget. So having a good banking relationship or a good relationship with people in the capital community is going to put you in a much better position and really just give you a comfort level in terms of when you do come about those things that are surprises and you end up needing more capital than you forecasted for, you can be in a position to hopefully work through those situations. Very, very important business basic category. Number 5, marketing. This is something that I'm very passionate about, and I believe every single business owner, every single franchise owner must be a marketer. You must have a qualified marketing strategy around your business. You cannot rely on the name of the franchisor, the brand of the franchisor, or the marketing fund that you're likely paying into to be sufficient enough to keep you going as a franchisee. That's just the fact of the matter. That's just the world we live in today. You have to be able to be the master of your marketing domain. Now, part of that is you need to make sure that with your particular franchise, what you can and can't do in terms of marketing. As an example, very hot issue in franchising right now is in social media marketing, and the franchisors, a lot of them are really still unsure as to how to go about doing that. And so they are taking on excessive control from that perspective and giving very little leeway for their franchisees, which in many situations can be problematic. You need to understand enough about your business and understand enough about where people are finding, where your customers are finding you at the outset to know then and to make an informed decision in terms of how you are marketing your business. You always, always, always need to be marketing your business, and you need to be thinking about that at the outset. The old adage that if you build it, they will come is not true in most cases. In fact, I would say in 95% of the cases, that is not true. You are going to have to establish yourself in the area, in the community in which you are, and be able to differentiate yourself as a franchisee, because chances are that you are going to have competition from either other franchise owners or other small business owners, and you are going to have to market yourself and figure out a way to stick out. So let me just do a brief recap. The 5 business basics that I believe every single franchise owner needs to contemplate and seriously consider at the outset of their franchise ownership is number 1, management. Number 2, operations. Number 3, billing/accounting. Number 4, banking. And number 5, marketing. I think if you take this to heart and think about those things, you will be light years ahead of most other entrepreneurs that are out there trying to make a go at it, whether they're in franchising or in just a regular small business. As sort of an additional bonus for this episode, I came across this really fascinating and interesting article that I just read the other night on Forbes.com, and it's titled, "When Does an Entrepreneur Become a Business Owner?" I'll have it in my show notes for this episode, but it's by Martin Zwilling, and I've never read any of his work, but it's a really interesting account of the difference between being an entrepreneur and being a true business owner. And I think if you are in the position right now where you are either just getting started with your business, with your franchise, or even have done it for a while, I think you will find it interesting and benefit from this article. So again, I'll have it in a link in my show notes. Well, hopefully you got benefit from this episode. As always, if you have questions, want to shoot any questions my way, please feel free to email me at josh@indiefranchiselaw.com. And I look forward to the next weekly episode. Until then, happy franchising.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.